Hi guys, Tom here with Haibike. Not the kind of video I thought I'd be making, but I feel as though it's necessary to hopefully help clear up some rumours, some unknowns in the industry right now. Haibike just went bankrupt, so it's not struggling, it's not facing headwinds. The company that owns Haibike has filed for insolvency last week, and it's not just Haibike. Ghost, Lapierre, Raleigh, a bunch of other brands that you've probably ridden or at least heard of, all owned by the same company, all caught up in this at once. I want to kind of talk you through what actually happened, because the short version is that everyone's repeating online is private equity ruined another bike company. It's true, but it's missing basically all of the interesting parts, and then I want to talk about what happened next, because that part's genuinely unclear right now. So here's the setup. Haibike isn't independent. It's owned by a Dutch company called Accell Group. Accell also owns Ghost, Lapierre, Raleigh, Winora, Batavus, few others, plus the Babo cargo bike brand. Basically, if you bought a bike in Europe in the last couple decades, there's a decent chance that Accell had a brand on it somewhere. Last Wednesday, Accell announced it can't pay its bills. It's now in something called a suspension of payments. That's the Dutch version of a Chapter 11. A court gives the company breathing room from competitors and creditors whilst it figures out whether it can be saved. Now, this is the important bit. It's not the same as a company just disappearing tomorrow. So they're not just going to go poof, gone. But it is a real crisis. And if you own a recent Haibike that you bought from manufacturer, or even from reseller, third party reseller, online store, Haibike, Ghost, Lapierre or Raleigh, your warranty is actually sitting inside a company that's in insolvency court right now. That's a real practical problem, not just a headline. So, how did they get there? So, this took 4 years, pretty much, and it's actually a pretty interesting ride. So, in 2022, peak COVID bike boom. Everyone's buying bikes. I was buying bikes. Demand is insane. And that's the exact moment that private equity firm KKR buys Accell. Somewhere around the 1.8 billion euros. Depending which report you read, the bet was simple. The growth keeps going, we make our money back, like every company did during COVID. Unfortunately, it didn't keep going. By late 2023, Accell is sitting on 340,000 unsold bikes. That's finished bikes just sitting there. They're dumping stock at huge discounts just to get cash in the door, just to keep everything afloat. By 2024, revenue drops 22%. Debt is up to 1.4 billion euros. First restructuring happens. Creditors cut that debt down to around 800 million. Accell also shuts a bunch of warehouses and a factory just to survive. February of this year, second restructuring, and that one's the real, hitter. KKR, the private equity firm, hands control of the company over to the lenders. When that happens, that's usually a sign that the original owner is out of good options. KKR's losses on the whole thing are estimated at over €1 billion. Wasn't a good bet, was it? Then in July, there's actually a lifeline. A company called Accell Group agrees to buy Accell outright. Regulators already signed off in 3 countries. All that's left is closing the deal. Doesn't close. Nobody said why, and a few weeks later, Accell files for insolvency. Now, this isn't just a Haibike problem. No, not even close. YT Industries went through a restructuring last year. Noli went into receivership Linksy filed Chapter 11. This is happening across the entire bike industry right now, and the pattern's basically identical every time. The massive overproduction during the pandemic boom, private equity loading up debt, betting the growth continues, and a demand crash that leaves everyone holding way more inventory and way more debt than the market can absorb. So, what actually happens now? Here's what we know, and here's what we don't. We know the process is designed to explore options before anything gets shut down. New investors coming in, individual brands getting sold off separately, or some brands surviving independently even if the parent company doesn't. We don't know yet whether Haibike specifically gets picked up by a new owner, gets folded into whatever's left of Accell, or gets wound down for good. And there's one interesting rumour floating in bike forums right now, that Haibike's original founders might try to buy the brand back for a fraction of what KKR paid for the whole group. That's speculation, not confirmed, but it's happened with other collapsed brands before, so it's not exactly a crazy theory. Here's the actual takeaway though. Haibike still makes good bikes. Ghost, Lapierre, Raleigh, good engineering, real brands. What's failed them here wasn't the product. It was €1 billion bet that a pandemic bike boom was the new normal, and it wasn't. And the debt from that bet what actually killed the company. I'm going to keep following this, especially anything on warranty coverage for people who already own these bikes, as well as myself. If that's you, drop a comment. I want to try and get real answers in a follow-up. If you want the rest of this bike industry shakeout as it happens, subscribe. Cheers guys.